Okay, let's talk about what has transpired, what might transpire. The Raiders commit to Antonio Pierce as head coach. You can thank Max Crosby. Mad Max kind of led the statement from that locker room to owner Mark Davis. Do this, keep this guy. The sidebar story is that they have now brought on board longtime NFL coach and GM, been in the Super Bowl, Tom Coughlin.
Yeah.
He's going to be a pseudo consultant. He's not going to be the offensive consultant. He's not going to be the defensive consultant. What he's doing is he's aiding Antonio Pierce, because they're all part of the fabric of the old New York Giants, and who Pierce should hire to put on this coaching staff.
Nice.
Now, they're started to interview a whole bunch of veteran defensive coordinators led by the controversial Greg Williams. There are other guys that they're going to interview probably this week, and they're going to find a veteran offensive coordinator. And I think what's happened is that Coughlin walks into the room with index cards and said, these are the candidates if I were making the decision, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, etc. So Coughlin's going to have some insight to give to Antonio Pierce, aside from what Pierce's experiences have been all about. So the Raiders hire him. Patriots, of course, promoted Jered Mayo protege, Bill Belichick. I think this was all prearranged as far back as a year ago. However, he's really been loud. Jered Mayo is saying things that were never said before in Foxborough. Jered Mayo, we are going to hire named offensive coordinators that you know, and they will have responsibility, rather than this cloud smoke of Bill Belichick as who's a coordinator,
Right.
Mayo this morning said, by the way, Patriot fans, we're going to burn through some cash in free agency. You imagine Belichick saying, we're going to spend a lot of money in free agency? So Jered Mayo is approaching this job very differently. Of course, he still needs a bleeping quarterback, and that's a big issue because they might not get a shot at one of the top couple of coordinators. Atlanta, second interview with Bill Belichick. This interview involves John McKay, president of football operations and their current general manager, after a one-on-one between Belichick and Arthur Blank that lasted a whole day. Belichick is still the hot guy. Mike Vrabel has been brought back in for a second interview in Atlanta. And guess who's gone back to Atlanta for a second interview? Jim Harbaugh.
Wow.
Which is a bit of a surprise. So Atlanta, people must think they have a lot to offer this position. I find that hard to believe in the fact that I don't think they got a hell of a lot of players, and I surely don't have a quarterback, but they have an owner evidently that everybody trusts. So that's the latest on Atlanta. 2 interviews already with Belichick, second interview with Vrabel, second one coming with Harbaugh. Chargers, second interview. We think it's tomorrow with Harbaugh. Now there's a glitch. I was told in Ann Arbor that by somebody I trust that covers Michigan football, that Harbaugh's dollar value is 12 to 15 million, whether it's in the NFL or it's back with the Wolverines. Harbaugh wants permission to hire whom he wants to put into structure situations in the front office. I don't know what that means for John. Thanks for the job, Dad. Spanos. But that's part of it. And now there's a third piece of the equation. There's a big buyout to Harbaugh's contract. So the question is Dean Spanos going to be willing to pay Jim Harbaugh 15 mil, give him the right to hire whom he wants in the front office and player personnel control, and then pay the buyout from Michigan? I can't configure at this point, after brief conversations, what the dollar value is, but it might be 8 to 10 mil.
Ooh. Okay.
That's a big outlay for Dean Spanos, who I think is one of the financially poorer owners in the league, even though they call themselves the first family of football. So they got that. The Chargers also bringing in Dan Quinn for a second interview from the Dallas Cowboys, Raheem Morris for a second interview from the Rams. I'm not sure whether or not Vrabel is going to have a second interview. He did interview on Friday. So there's a lot in motion as it relates to the Chargers. Carolina Panthers. Looks like Ben Johnson might be the hot guy from Detroit. They can't interview him yet because Carolina is still playing. They have done a Zoom interview. The league bylaws are so complicated. I can interview you via Zoom, even if your team's still in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Your team gets knocked out of the playoffs. John, here's a plane ticket. We'll do a second interview. But you can't interview you in person if you're still playing.
Yeah.
So Ben Johnson is out there. he kind of looks like hot guy Carolina. And in Washington, which has been really quiet since they hit the eject button on Ron Rivera, Washington over the weekend interviewed its own offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy. And again, he's had no other interviews other places. And John, the last 2 years, Eric Bieniemy has been a really hot candidate. So, John, there's a lot of teams there to talk about. Your reaction to what's happened in Raiderville, your reaction to the lightning bolt. Anything else you want to cover?
Yeah, there's just so much there. First of all, I think it's fantastic that Tom Coughlin is coming into Vegas. Consultant. But, they're taking this seriously, and it's not going to be some weirdo decision by, Mark Davis. So that's great. The social media response to the Chargers and what they're going to do has been overwhelming on your YouTube channel. And the fans have either already, gotten rid of the Chargers from their memory, or they're saying if they don't hire Harbaugh,
they will get rid of them.
Yeah, then they're going to be done. So the fans there are just furious. And now to see, like you say, there was another wrinkle or another problem with the Harbaugh thing, the buyout. But the Spanoses are going to screw it up. I mean, we just know that's going to happen.
Charging.
So, but for all the other places, I saw the comments from Mayo in New England were interesting. So, this is just fascinating the way all this is rolling out.
So we've got these openings. Some dominoes going to start to fall pretty doggone quickly.
Big time.
Before the AFC NFC championship game. You got a question about the coaching situation? Jump on board in Fans Forum. Hacksaw's headlines, our